What is happening? I haven't been around too much because there hasn't been too much to talk about. Let's be honest, news has been dry. The news cycles have been as dry as I sound right now. But listen, we are in World Cup season and I cannot believe what I just saw. KSA conquered the mighty Argentina and it was messy. Wow. Anyway, let's get on to some gaming news. Courtesy of VideoGamesChronicle.com VGC by any other acronym. Microsoft says it's offered Sony a 10-year deal to keep Call of Duty on PlayStation, but PlayStation denies it has been overstating the importance of the series in talks with regulators. And let's be honest here, there are 16 countries looking at this deal and only 2 have given approval. Now, Microsoft has reportedly, as I say, offered Sony a deal that would see the Call of Duty franchise remain on PlayStation for a decade. So it was originally 3 years, an extra 3 years beyond the deal. Obviously, they are so desperate to get this Activision Blizzard King deal over the line that Phil Spencer, the Xbox boss, Windows gaming boss, Microsoft gaming boss, has literally bent over backwards for Sony, who at this point are looking extremely entitled. I've never seen this in my entire video gaming life. A huge company like Sony acting so entitled over a IP it doesn't even own. But anyway, as I say, Microsoft is desperate to get the deal over the line. Sony are playing hardball. They must know something we don't. They must think that Microsoft have a slim chance of getting this approved. Otherwise, why wouldn't they jump at the 10-year deal? You know, at least in gesture. So the Xbox manufacturer told the New York Times that it had offered the 10-year deal to Sony on November 11, not that long ago, and Sony declined to comment on the claim. Now, the future of the Call of Duty series as a multi-platform product is one of the key areas being examined by the worldwide regulators scrutinizing Microsoft's proposed $68.7 billion acquisition of Activision Blizzard. Now, of the, as I say, 16 governments reviewing the deal, only Saudi Arabia and Brazil have approved it so far, although Microsoft said it expects Serbia to do so shortly once the check clears. I mean, I'm kidding. But in September, Xbox boss Phil Spencer said Microsoft had committed to making Call of Duty available on PlayStation for several more years after Sony's current deal with Activision expires, which will reportedly follow the release of a new game from the Black Ops developer Treyarch sometime in 2024. However, PlayStation boss Jim Ryan, who is reportedly seeking to access the future of Call of Duty games on equal terms and in perpetuity, responded publicly by calling Microsoft's proposal for keeping the series on the PlayStation consoles inadequate on many levels. Old news. But since then, the UK and European regulators have expanded their initial inquiries into the deal into an in-depth investigation, and Microsoft has said it's willing to make concessions on the future of the Call of Duty series. I think Microsoft are worried, folks. Why would you lean over like this? Cave. Now, last week, Spencer said he was open to making a commitment to Sony and regulators that Call of Duty would stay on PlayStation on a longer-term basis, and currently agreed, seemingly referring to a 10-year offer. Microsoft's head of gaming told The Verge Decoder podcast, and here's a quote, "This idea that we would write a contract that says the word forever, I think, is a little bit silly, but to make a long-term commitment that Sony would be, well, comfortable with, that regulators, more importantly regulators, they care little about Sony. They're making all these concessions and offers because they really want to prove to regulators that, you know, we're okay with Call of Duty, you can trust us." But anyway, they want the regulators to be comfortable, and Phil says he has no issue with that at all. Now, announcing its decision to probe the acquisition in further detail in September, the UK's Competition and Markets Authority, acronym CMA, said it, and I quote, "considers that Call of Duty is sufficiently important that losing access to it, or losing access on a competitive term, could significantly impact Sony's revenues and user base. Deep concern for Sony's pockets there." Interesting. Now, responding to the CMA's decision, Microsoft called the regulator's concerns misplaced and claimed that it adopts Sony's complaints without the appropriate level of critical review. Like, I guess they're saying that the CMA and Sony seem too buddified. That's the claim I believe they're making, and it was really accusing Sony of misleading the regulator, telling the New York Times that the company overstated the importance of Call of Duty to its viability. In a statement, PlayStation boss Ryan told the publication it was not true. In other words, he's calling Phil a liar, that his company had misled regulators. Microsoft is a tech giant with a long history of dominating industries, and it is highly likely that the choices gamers have today will disappear if this deal goes ahead. Yeah, Jim Ryan. Now, in the aforementioned interview with The Verge, Spencer said that Xbox will struggle to continue as a global business if the company doesn't establish a foothold in the mobile sector, and claimed that the Activision Blizzard deal is primarily about acquiring Candy Crush maker King, not Call of Duty. This is something, isn't it? So we've gone down to the, it started off as a battlefield, now we're all talking about candy. It might be about Candy Crush in the mobile sector for Microsoft, but I'm sure for Sony, it is very much about Call of Duty. So, even the New York Times has a piece, Can Big Tech Get Bigger? Microsoft presses governments to say yay. Microsoft's $69 billion deal for Activision Blizzard, which is undergoing reviews in 16 countries, has become a test for whether tech giants can buy companies amid backlash. Now, in recent weeks, Microsoft had accused Sony, its chief video game rival, misleading the regulators already covered. Its lawyers have showed off game consoles, including an Xbox, to British officials, and that the president of a major union that Microsoft wooed has spoken up on the company's behalf to the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC. Now, the actions are part of a campaign by Microsoft to counter intensifying scrutiny of its $69 billion acquisition of video game publisher Activision Blizzard, the largest consumer technology deal since AOL bought Time Warner 2 decades ago, and even far bigger than Elon Musk's recent $44 billion buyout of Twitter, of which many people are seemingly hive-minding it to hive in case something goes wrong with Twitter. Listen, if Twitter goes down, I couldn't give a monkey's. I need an excuse not to go on Twitter. So Microsoft's aim is simple: persuade skeptical governments around the globe to approve the blockbuster takeover, since governments must bless the purchase. What a way of putting it. Putting Microsoft under the most regulatory pressure it has faced since the antitrust battles of the 1990s. And in 3 key places: the United States, the European Union, and Britain, UK, since we have left the EU for our. Regulators have begun deep reviews, with the European Commission declaring this month that it was opening an in-depth investigation into the deal. Whether Microsoft succeeds in gaining regulatory approval to buy Activision, which makes games such as Candy Crush or Call of Duty, will send a message about the big tech's ability to expand in the face of mounting fears that the industry giants wield too much power. If Microsoft, whose public affairs operation has spent the past decade building the company's nice guy reputation, can't get a mega deal through, then pretty much who can? So there you have it. Google, Meta, Amazon, Apple have all faced increasing accusations that they are monopolies, and regulators have tried to block some of their smaller deals. Even the FTC sued Meta, Facebook's parent company, to stop it from buying Within, a virtual reality startup. Last month, Britain forced Meta to sell Giphy, bought in 2020 for $315 million. So yeah, there's a lot going on here. There's a hell of a lot going on. And the article goes on and on and on and on. And I'm not going to... I'm not going to read it all. You'll have to follow the link in the description. But yeah, this is actually a crazy, crazy time. I've never seen something so complicated. I know it's a big deal. It has to be scrutinized and everything else. But the drama that's surrounding it is insane. I mean, I actually want Microsoft to get Call of Duty, Because I think Sony are PlayStation is far too reliant on something they don't own. You know what I mean? I think Sony should concentrate on its own IP. Yeah, make your money while you can of Call of Duty. I'd be happy to take the 10-year deal. And during that 10 years, I will be doing my damnedest to get the top teams to work on an FPS shooter. In 10 years, you can establish a new FPS shooter. I mean, Call of Duty was unknown in the console space before 2005. That was a PC title, rather small one. And then the Xbox 360 and PS3 came out and then made Call of Duty huge. You know, consoles make games big. Really big. I'm not saying PC doesn't, but once it hits the console and it's a hit, it's pretty much known all over the world, right? Whether you have a PC or not. So, I just feel like Sony are acting really entitled. I like their games. They are my preferred platform for video games, but I've never seen such entitlement in my life. You know, you can't get it in perpetuity. It's not an indefinite thing. There's no way you can get forever in a contract. Never, never, never. And Microsoft themselves are at fault here for being so bloody desperate. This is desperation when you keep offering Sony concessions on Call of Duty when you don't have to. Because it's not down to Sony whether you get this deal. It's down to the regulatory bodies. And even if Sony said, yeah, we'll take that 10-year offer, you know, all of these bodies can still reject the deal. They can still. So I don't know why they're looking to Sony. Either Sony has all the power and Microsoft know it, which is why they are pandering to Sony, or Sony are just another player in this big pond. Okay, they're another fish in a big pond. And it's really the regulatory bodies that decide. Because I don't see why you're making offers to Sony directly when you could still not get that deal through. So why bother? You could put your neck on the chopping board and still not get the deal over the line. And Sony with their arrogance. I've not seen such arrogance since the PlayStation 3 era. You know, when Ken Kutaragi said that you're going to need 2 jobs. And lately they've been coming out with these absurd for this current economic climate pricing of products. Absurd, expensively, absurd PlayStation VR 2. A controller that's just simply not worth the money. I don't care if you want to compare it to Scuff. They're not worth the money either. I guess value is subjective. To me, I'd never spend £100 on a controller. Never, never, never. Don't need it. What for? I don't know if it makes you a better player. Don't care. Rather keep the money in my pocket. Anyway, let me know what you think in the comments. It's been a rather lengthy video, but this is really getting spicy, isn't it? You better watch that chili count, baby, because when it comes out the other side, you'll know what you're in for. What say you? Let's continue the discussion cordially in the comments. Go ahead, sound off, share your thoughts and opinions on today's news, as that brings us to the end of the video. Subscribe for more gaming news, rumor and wild speculation. Hit the like button and yes, that notification bell so we don't miss each other. And you can help Foxy Games UK reach more gamers, so feel free to share the video. You may also want to consider supporting Foxy Games via Patreon. As I say, I don't make a living from any of these videos, so any help would be very much appreciated, but my income doesn't come from YouTube. So yeah, if you want to support me via Patreon, you are welcome, because we're kind of like family now, so thank you. And you can find a link in the video description. But that concludes our time together today. Thanks for hanging out with me. Hopefully there's more news coming, so there's more videos. I'm not making videos just for the bloody sake of it, to fill spaces on YouTube. It's got to be something worth talking about. But anyway, until next time, play games, not corporations.